Diageo is a British multinational alcoholic beverage supplier, based in London, England. Up until 2017, it was the world's largest distiller, generating an annual revenue of £18 billion. Diageo is the major supplier of alcoholic beverages, operating on all 5 continents. Being the global brand that it is, Diageo needs to respond to the acute threat of Brexit, which not only increases the costs of its core businesses in Europe and the UK, but, as we will discuss, has impacts on its trade around the world. The brands under Diageo's umbrella include several market-leading products in their respective categories, such as Smirnoff, Johnnie Walker, Baileys and Guinness. In total, Diageo builds its brand portfolio on its 6 so-called global players, incorporating brands on the lower end as well as several premium brands. Additionally, Diageo's portfolio contains another 24 regional and overall more than 200 local brands, aiming at diversifying its portfolio and tailoring products to its target markets, which is a key part of Diageo's global strategy. Finally, the company also owns a 34% stake in Moët Hennessy, the conglomerate of Moët Chandon, Veuve Clicquot and Hennessy. Diageo's products are sold in over 180 markets, with local offices in more than 80 countries. The company's omnipresence around the world has allowed Diageo to fully embrace its mission of celebrating life every day, everywhere.
Referring to the strategies used by the company, one can say that since the beginning, Diageo has been using similar techniques and tactics in order to reach the targeted goals. To begin with, the main aim is to develop a global reputation with a touch of local flavor. To achieve that, the corporation has been acquiring a plethora of businesses to create a diversified portfolio and establish a local presence in each market. The main markets are in the US and in Europe, but lately the company has undergone extensive efforts to increase its presence in the frontier and emerging markets. Markets such as India and China are a primary concern, places where Diageo invested around $3 billion in the last 2 years. For instance, in China, the market has grown by almost 25% in the latest financial year, which made China a profitable prospect market for Diageo. The company is also making a thorough analysis of global trends as well as political, economic and demographic changes. Therefore, taking advantage of growth in GDP and a constant increase of the middle class, countries such as Mexico, Indonesia, Nigeria and Turkey are new markets where Diageo aims to establish its presence. Their way is through acquisitions, such as the latest one in Mexico, of about $1 billion, acquiring the well-known tequila brand Casamigos. Another major example can be the Yeniraki that has been added to Diageo's portfolio back in 2011 for $2.1 billion, has been thriving in the Turkish market. Acquisition is not the only way Diageo do business, but also through innovation. Diageo has been attempting to communicate with new and current customers as well as facilitate services through radical and innovative methods. In 2016, they partnered with Deliveroo, offering alcohol delivery services, as well as making their presence online with the e-commerce site Alexander & James for premium labels. They also created an online platform, Distill Ventures, a vehicle to help fund innovation within the spirit world, allowing them to place small bets on upcoming brands at a time of constant changes in the taste and preferences of customers. Last but not least, there is a constant drive to expand their customer base, lead to minor stake acquisition in Sidley, the world's first distilled non-alcoholic company, with a campaign, "What to drink when you're not drinking." Strategy is to try to be as mass transferable as possible. For instance, consuming alcohol in Brazil will occur in a very different situational context to that in UK. Thus, both the product and the product positioning must adapt to local specification. Certainly, that implies the marketing efforts are only transferable to a certain extent. That's when local brand comes up, to incorporate these differences and maintain a degree of transferability in the marketing of the umbrella brand. In regards to the marketing campaigns and advertising, Diageo prefers to make individual ads and campaigns for each brand to establish. One of the most notorious and successful one is the Johnnie Walker Keep Walking campaign that earned 3 IPA awards.
Diageo provides global local products in the sense that there is a global demand for the products, and when referring to the CAGE framework, it is local in terms of cultural distance. That is to say, cultures have different preferences both in taste and consumption habit, as Fotis mentioned earlier. Diageo acknowledged this and hence have applied a sense of cultural arbitrage to its strategy in order to embrace and exploit differences rather than applying a generic strategy. An example of this would be the introduction of the non-alcoholic Guinness Beer in Indonesia. They have also established local brands in different regions all over the world to maintain a degree of transferability in marketing. In terms of administrative distance, different government regulations implies that there will be local modifications to the product and their marketing strategy around the world, and as a result of this, there will always be a degree of non-transferability. Another administrative aspect would be the uncertainty regarding Brexit and trade agreements between UK and other countries. However, Diageo is one of the largest production sites of the company in Ireland, which is a member of the EU, and therefore the company will, if moving further production beyond Guinness to Ireland, still be able to retain its current trade routes with Europe without suffering significantly. However, while strategic regions like Ireland may be essential to exporting into the EU, they will be subject to tariff and non-tariff barriers when supplying domestic markets. This will drastically increase price while reducing availabilities. The demand for spirits goods are expected to increase in Britain and Asia as disposable income and consumer spending is increasing. Thus, the purchasing power in emerging economies are rising, and this is also presented in the increasing trend of luxury spirits. Diageo has already a market in Asia and has moved on to product development of its premium brands, introducing it to the Asian market. An example of this is their exclusive Johnnie Walker suit for collectors in Singapore, built with the intention to translate into sales in the long run. The sales volume in Asia has doubled over the last 2 years, and Asia, being the company's third largest pool of revenue, is surely the most prosperous of the company's lead countries outside of its domestic market. However, it is not only Diageo that is tapping into emerging market. Pernod Ricard is currently the largest importer to China and is expected to target numerous other countries to open new distribution arms. It is also the top spirits manufacturer in continental Europe, South America, and the Asia-Pacific region. As a result of competition from other companies, Diageo has also showed interest for Africa. It seems as they are facing the risk of being the power brokers. This is indicated as operating margin seems to be slimmer than elsewhere compared to revenues, indicating that large costs incurred to tax expenses as well as general and administrative.
Diageo later announced that Brexit would have a neutral or positive impact towards them. This was due to the fact that trading towards other European countries would be protected for them by the WTO trade agreements. They also believed that Brexit would bring forward new trade dealings with countries that they had already looked forward to targeting for future business, such as the Indian market. Finally, the UK separating from the EU would mean that they could work on an increase of price for those goods that could only be sold or produced in the UK, such as Scotch, which could only be produced in Scotland. With the announcement of Brexit, Diageo found itself facing a dilemma: whether to remain in the UK, its home base, notably in Scotland, or to move their base forward into new regions and settle themselves there. Originally, Diageo announced the closing down of one of its Scottish plants, which would result in the loss of hundreds of jobs. For this, they were highly criticized. The statement, though, was quickly withdrawn, as Diageo later announced the reopening of 2 Scottish mills in Scotland. This is due to the fact that certain brands of premium Scotch can only be produced in Scotland, and Scotch accounts for a high production of premium brands for Diageo.
In conclusion, it is safe to say that Diageo has been running smoothly throughout the years, and it seems that it will continue that way. Certainly, Brexit poses a risk to the company's well-being, but the official position on the Brexit negotiations is to await until further decisions are made, aspiring some certainty on the issue. The company is already hedging for potential implementation of tariffs, moving liquor productions to Italy and other places, yet the company is still dedicated to the UK market. Diageo was also one of the first global players to recognize the great potential of frontier markets, not only in Asia, but also in Africa. Through the diversification into local brands, Diageo took advantage of the arbitrage of local tastes in a global context and is therefore less dependent on individual markets. With regards to Brexit, the only real victim of the restrictions in trade will be UK consumers. As for the company, the ongoing debate about moving headquarters to Ireland offers both security of maintaining trade routes with Europe, but also the risk of no longer benefiting from favourable currency developments. The implementations of Brexit have certainly added some heat to the debate. Without a doubt, the company should continue working through strategic acquisitions to expand inorganically, especially with signs of maturity in the major markets. Nevertheless, despite the threat of Brexit being very relevant, there's little reason to believe that the international operations of Diageo will suffer substantially, allowing us to evaluate the company with the optimism of a prosperous future.